Our review today is going to be for Moonlight. Moonlight is the 2016 film directed by Barry Jenkins, Oscar winner for Best Picture. It is starring Trevante Rhodes and Mahershala Ali, as well as Janelle Monáe. Here in this film, it's detailing the life of a young black male all the way through adolescence into adulthood. And you kind of see his experience growing up in his kind of rough neighborhood as a person who's trying to discover his sexuality, him being a person who is gay, trying to, navigate, kind of what that means and, his kind of place in the world there. Also his mother, who you see in the movie, is played by Naomi Harris, who she won for Best Supporting Actress, I believe. For this role as well, and Moonlight. And Mahershala Ali won for Best Supporting Actor as well, I think, for this. So this got, rave reviews when it was released. A lot of people talked about how great this movie was. This was my first time checking this movie out. So it was kind of a new experience for me. And it's kind of nice to see a movie, removed from all the hype of it, so many years later, watching it about, 7 years later, watching a movie that was so highly praised, because now you don't maybe feel that pressure to go like, what was so great about this, or what was so kind of amazing about it. You just can kind of just watch the movie and embrace the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you looking at me
yeah,
like
watching it so long.
Man? Come on, you just drove down here
from its initial hype, and especially after its Oscar win, it's almost like getting to watch this film with fresh eyes. And this is, I've talked to Hunter and I've talked to Jamarco, who's been on the show when we talked about a Rush Hour before, and by their account, this is one of the best movies of the 2010s. And I kind of had very high expectations for this, watching it for the first time several years later, because as great as this film is, I feel like a lot of its hype got drained just by that little flub at the Oscars, where for like 3 seconds, people thought that La La Land won Best Picture.
Yeah, that mass confusion, if people remember, at the Oscars, a huge mix-up. Because people only really remember Oscar moments when there's like a huge fuck up. That's pretty much what people remember. Like, people don't really remember, like, people don't really remember when it was kind of a good show and everything like that. It's like, I remember somebody saying that, like, if you're an Oscar host, it's kind of a thankless job, because if you do a good job, nobody really cares. But if you mess up or you suck, everybody's talking about it. So it seems like it's kind of a really thankless job there. There was this huge mix up, they had, like, it was with Warren Beatty. He got like the wrong envelope, and it was like, it said, because I think it still had the winner from Best Supporting Actor from La La Land on it.
He got the instead of the Best Picture, he was given the Best Actress.
Best Actress,
the Best Actress envelope, which had Emma Stone for La La Land. So I think the woman that was hosting it was presenting that with him, which was was it Lily Tomlin? I think it was.
I forgot who the woman was they're presenting. I mean, he got all the blame for it. I mean, because he kind of showed her it, because he looked as like he kind of looked back like, what is this supposed to mean?
Right?
You know what I mean? And he just he's like, I guess they mean La La Land. I guess that's what they mean. So he said it, and then you know what I mean? It just was like, and then they were like, the whole La La cast, they went up there and they got the award, and they looked at the envelope and went, wait a minute. And then they're like, no, this ain't right.
Wait, Moonlight won.
Yeah. And then he ripped the envelope out of Warren Beatty's hands and was like, shit, it's Moonlight. This is the winner. There you go. Shit. Here you go.
Yeah. And it was one of the producers from La La Land. I don't remember who exactly it was.
Yeah.
But he said, sorry about, but Moonlight won.
Yeah,
I think years later, finally seeing it for the first time, it 100% was the best film in that category.
Which I never seen La La Land, so I can't make that. I still haven't seen that one myself. Yeah, but if you guys want to check it out, that was kind of a good moment there. Yeah, he was like, "No, for real, really, we're serious. Moonlight won. You guys got to come up here and get this. There you go." It'd be funny if he just kept it. Everybody just kept it a secret. Like, okay, let's just take this W. You know what I mean? Hey, let's get it. You know what I mean? He just ran off with it. Yeah. So, and you have different actors who are playing both the, kind of just telling the journey throughout this person's life. You know what I mean? You see, like I said, him as an adolescent, him to a teen, then him to an adult. You kind of see these different actors. The person who's playing the teen actor, we actually just saw recently. He was in the movie I Want to Dance with Somebody, where he played Bobby Brown. So he was that Ashton Sanders. He was just in that. And then Alex R. Hibbert, he plays the younger version of the character there. And all these people, all these kind of different versions of him kind of have different names, even though his name is Chiron in it. But, when he's a little kid, they just call him kind of like, he's mostly called by Mahershala Ali's character, who's Juan. He's called Little Man. So he just kind of referred to, people just call him Little Man most of the time.
Yeah. Everyone, when he's a little kid, played by Alex Hibbert, just calls him Little. When he's a teenager, people call him Chiron, or they still like refer to him as Little. But I think it's a case where Sanders is credited as Chiron in the IMDb page. And then when he's an adult, played by Trevante Rhodes, he's referred to by a nickname he gets as a teenager, Black.
Yeah. Which is the name that the character Kevin called him. And you also see, along with Chiron's character, you also see different versions of Kevin's character, younger version all the way up until an adult. The adult version is played by Andre Holland, who we just saw in Bones and All. He was the dad in that movie. And then you have the adolescent version of him, and then the teen version of him. The teen version of him is the actor from When They See Us. He showed up in that. Let me see if I can find his name, the teen version of that actor.
Played by Jarrell Jerome, who won the Primetime Emmy for When They See Us, and we also recently saw in Concrete Cowboy with the film with Idris Elba.
He was in that. Okay, I forgot he was in that. Okay. So you have that. And Mahershala Ali's character here, as Juan, is fantastic. I mean, he is really great to see his interaction between, because you just mainly see his interaction between the Chiron character when he's a little kid, and being kind of the only kind of good force in his life, because you see when he's with his mother, Naomi Harris, kind of how bad of that environment is for him. Her being, you kind of see her slowly be addicted to drugs over time, and kind of her just deteriorating over time there, and the constant harsh environment there for him.
And not just that, not just the harsh environment, which is horrible for anybody when a parent figure is a drug addict, and also berating him, being addicted, neglecting him, and kind of taunting him in the same way that a lot of the other kids around him are in the same way. And it all culminates into a scene where Chiron is talking to Juan, played by Mahershala Ali, and Teresa, who's played by Janelle Monáe, and he asks Juan what an F word is, which is a scene that, watching it for the first time, just breaks my heart, because kids are learning what that term is, and it's horrible.
Yeah. And you see that he's a kid that has to really kind of learn how to do things on his own. You see where he has to take a bath. You see the water's not running, and he comes up with a solution to take a bath for that. And you see, him, kind of being bullied by these other kids, kind of really, not a lot of, outlet for him there. And when he meets Mahershala Ali's Juan's character, who I was sad, man, when he was gone in the movie, when he just kind of, you don't see him throughout the rest. I mean, there's a segment in the movie he's just gone from most of it there. He's just mainly in the beginning. I was like, man, I really miss this character, because he is such, and you shows up really this kind of cool character, confident character, you know what I mean, and displaying just so much wisdom to the little character. And he takes him to his house because he's running from these kids, and he ends up in this crack house, and then Juan ends up finding him, and he's a very kid, a few words, you know what I mean? Doesn't say anything, and just takes him to himself. And his wife is played by Janelle Monáe in this. And was this I think this was like one of the first big things Janelle Monáe was in, really, when she started her like acting journey. Because now we see her in kind of a lot of other stuff. She just recently she was in the Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion, and she's really great. I mean, she's really, really great here. In this movie, her interactions with him is really good. We see more of her also when he's a teenager, played by Ashton Sanders.
And we get to see more of that positive motherly figure relationship develop between him and Janelle Monáe, which I think is for as great as Mahershala Ali is, and he 100% deserved that Oscar nomination. It's kind of a crime that Monáe didn't get one as well that year, especially just seeing their interaction here and seeing how their relationship contrasts with his own mother, which is very abusive and is neglectful and is kind of reinforcing a lot of what this film's themes are.
Yeah. So did Mahershala Ali, did he win, or was he just nominated?
He won. That was his first Oscar nomination. It was this and Green Book back to back.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, because I was like, I said he had won before. I was like, okay, yeah. So yeah, he did win. Yeah. And Naomi Harris had won for Best Supporting Actress as well. And there's a larger conversation to be had about this movie. If you kind of want to bring into it, having a black woman in her state, what I mean, what she kind of goes through, trauma type situations, black experiences like that being portrayed on screen, and negative kind of portrayals like that winning in a film, what I mean? That's kind of a larger conversation like that to be had. But does a fantastic job there, Naomi Harris as well, and Janelle Monáe. An incredibly well acted movie kind of throughout. And when you see all the different actors portray Black's character, I think they all do a great job. Trante Rhodes, he was just, what was he? Well, he's on the Tyson Hulu series right now. And I heard he does a great job where he plays Mike Tyson in that Hulu. So I've been meaning to check it out. And then he was also in that Predator movie. Don't go see that movie. That's a pretty shitty movie, but he was also in that as well. Actually, he was kind of, I kind of wanted maybe him to be maybe Blade, maybe at one time, actually. Him or Yoann Noel, who was from the first Purge. Those were kind of my two choices there, instead of kind of Mahershala Ali. But you get to see a little bit of Trante Rhodes as the adult there, where you get to see him, and you see that physically he's put on kind of almost, people have compared to like this armor. Now he's all kind of big and buff, because you see kind of in his adolescent, his teen years, kind of very skinny kid. Now he's kind of got this more armor now to protect him. And in his adulthood, he kind of transformed into Juan. He kind of transformed into Mahershala Ali's character. He kind of copied him.
And that's something that I think is so understated about this film, because I think one of the themes that the original play that it's based on, and Barry Jenkins, what they're going for is how masculinity in general, it's kind of one of these things where young men, I think, are kind of forced into these boxes. And if they don't fit that, then that leads to a lot of feelings of loneliness, and that leads to the feeling of being ostracized and being an outsider. And I think that's kind of the tragedy of Chiron's adult life, where was given that positive example for as complex as a character as Juan is. And there's that beautiful line is like, at some point you have to decide who you're going to be. You can't let nobody tell you that. And he ends up just becoming some part of it is some of the worst parts of Juan.
Yeah. And you bring up that kind of conversation he has with him while they're going swimming. I'm going to pull up here because that is really great. I think the scene when they go swimming is an amazing scene here. So I'm going to pull that up right here.
At some point, you got to decide for yourself who you're going to be. Can't let nobody make that decision for you.
Yeah. Um, and you see in that scene, he's kind of telling the story also of like, kind of the theme of the movie, kind of Moonlight here, of him telling the story of him growing up. Juan's grew up in Cuba, and how he's kind of, a youth there as well, and it kind of tells that whole backstory of kind of the meaning of a little bit of the movie there, um, which I thought was very, very well done. And yeah, I mean, Mahershala Ali is definitely fantastic in this movie. You know what I mean? Just in the nuance of his performance, and how he's able to kind of bounce off this kid, and how, he's able to have this great kind of relationship with him. And like he's teaching him to swim and everything like that. And trying to be this influence in his life, even though he is this drug dealer and he is selling the very drugs that his mother is getting from him. And see that kind of conflict there. Do you think it was a mistake not to see him at least once or twice in his teen years that you saw the Chiron character?
I don't know. That's a very hard question to say because I think while the film is strongest in its first two acts, the entire film is just spectacular. And I think having Mahershala not be all that present in chapters 2 and 3, I think that kind of speaks to this sense of waywardness that we see Chiron go through throughout his adolescence and later in his adult life. Because that example of that actually positive example of what being a man is with the character of Juan, where Juan is outwardly, yeah, he is a drug dealer. He is exactly doing as much harm. The most positive male figure in your life is also destroying your family in a way. But Juan plays it, and Mahershala plays it with such warmth and tenderness that you can be all those things and still be very masculine, which is, I think, something that is lost on a lot of people, especially now.
Yeah, because there's no scene where you see him kind of being like maybe your stereotypical drug dealer that you would see in maybe movies or shows or anything like that. He doesn't beat anybody up. He doesn't, smack anybody or anything like that. He doesn't, kill anyone. He just is this guy that is confident in who he is and knows who he is and knows what he kind of does, even though he does this kind of bad thing and being a drug dealer. And you see that when now that when he's an adult, Little turns into adult, turns into Durante Rhodes Black. He's driving the same car. He's wearing a grill like how Juan wore a grill. He's wearing a do-rag, how Juan always used to wear a do-rag all the time. You know what I mean? Everywhere you see him, he always wore a do-rag. So you kind of see kind of how much he morphed into kind of the character. And it's also in this movie you have the character Kevin, which we talked about. Where you see the different stages of him as well, where you see how they know each other up until they're kids, all the way until they're reconnect as adults. And with the Kevin character, he's somebody that's going through the similar situation that you see Little's character is going through, but he's better at blending in. He's better at more mixing in and hiding it than Little's character is. What do you think about Kevin in this, and what do you think that kind of relationship there was?
Kevin, I think, for as layered as Chiron is, I think Kevin kind of comes across as one of the most fascinating characters in cinema in recent memory, because Kevin is very much Chiron's first love, but his character kind of speaks to that theme of the almost performativeness of masculinity, where he does play a lot of the part of like the stereotypical masculine male, even down to its worst aspects, where it's mostly defined through domination of weaker people, or domination through others, or violence. And in one of the more heartbreaking scene right after Chiron kind of has a sexual awakening with Kevin, the very next scene, Kevin's pressured to physically assault Chiron, and it's heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah, because it's like a game that they kind of do, like a initiation kind of game that they do, where it's like knock down, stay down, where somebody points somebody out and you got to, he has to kind of knock them out, and he just keeps getting back up, and it is a heartbreaking scene. The scene on the beach here is a beautiful scene. I think between the two of him here. Let me play some of that here because I think that's very well done by the two actors here.
Something like that.
Yeah, and
Nah, you
yeah,
don't
and something.
smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Let this clip play out.
Why you pretending? Trying to put on a show for me, Black?
You always calling me that.
What, Black?
Yeah, Black.
That's my nickname for you. You don't like it?
No, it's just... What kind of dude goes around giving other dudes nicknames?
The kind of dude what just sat down is about to put you onto this blunt, nigga. Yeah. You like the water? Well, I can introduce you to some fire.
And you see kind of in this clip right here, you know what I mean, how they're kind of going back and forth. That it's this, relationship and it's testing the waters of things and to see like, does he feel the same way? You know what I mean? Is it just a friendship? Is it more, kind of what's kind of going on? And I think that is very interesting there. And, kind of the moment that ends up happening, kind of at the end of the scene, and what it kind of leads to, I think, the next scene of violence kind of makes it even more heartbreaking. Because, like I said, I mean, like you were saying, Kevin very represents that performativeness there that you kind of have to do, even when he's. There's a scene, a couple scenes back, where he's talking to Chiron. He's talking to him about having sex with a woman in the hallway, right? He's aggressively talking about it. Again, to probably put on the front of, of trying to hide the fact that he is gay. And I thought that was very good. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about that character as well, and be done there.
Yeah, there's so much to say about this movie, even down to because this is one of the very few films where I can positively say that there's not a single frame wasted in it. Even down to the lighting in certain scenes, especially in that beach scene where we see young Chiron and Kevin, and they're kind of bathed in the moonlight, which ties back into a line Mahershala says earlier in the film. It's like black boys look blue in the moonlight, and the color blue, not only represents the sea and the sky, it's like often associated with like freedom and sensitivity between the two of them. And it's very much one of the few scenes where we see Kevin kind of drop that performativeness and is actually himself around Chiron.
Yeah. Yeah, and you speak about, the way the scenes, I mean, all the scenes are very lit very well. I mean, you kind of see that throughout the movie, the way the kind of things are. And this is an A24 movie as well, A24, the studio that's saving cinema. They always got all the interesting movies that's coming out, everything like that. People think, they're the antithesis to Marvel, the MCU, you know what I mean? Like they're the single-handedly, saving cinema with all their films and all their movies.
They're the ones that make cinema.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean the scenes are always lit very well and really nice. Because this takes place in Miami. It takes place in Miami, Florida there. And there's a lot of really beautiful shots that are done here by Barry Jenkins, and a lot of his work done there. I think that makes the movie look really also feel kind of more lived in, more kind of authentic there, I feel like. That I think so he does a great job with that. And when you see him, I wish, because this movie also it's not a super long movie. It's only like an hour and 51 minutes. And the shortest segment that you see is when you see him as an adult, which I thought is an interesting choice there. But, I don't think you needed a whole long sequence of him as an adult. Like I said, this movie takes place in chapters here. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. And what did you think about the length of the time that we get to see him when he's an adult there?
The time we get to see him as an adult, I think it is I feel like earlier in the conversation I was kind of saying that the film is strongest in its first and second act, where we get more of the dynamic between young Chiron, and a lot of the supporting cast. But I feel like with the third act, and for how short it is, I guess I should say the first chapter, we kind of see what the effects of this societal pressure to be a man has on somebody. And I feel like Chiron, who's just been so beaten down and so pressured that to literally just survive, he had to become this like really domineering figure, this like ultra muscular masculine dude. And it kind of makes the rest of the scenes play out and allowing him to finally take a breath and be vulnerable, especially in this heartbreaking scene where his mom is apologizing to him
Yeah.
for all the shit she pulled when he was a kid. And this movie is very heavy to watch and made me cry a lot, but I would broke down in that scene. And it ends on this very bittersweet note where we get the long reunion between Kevin and Chiron.
Yeah. In the last scene you see of him as a teen is him committing an act of violence because it's him finally getting back at the kids that
Mhm.
had bullied him, in school. And you see that because throughout his
Yeah,
life,
and
yeah,
and the haunting thing about that is because it's this very long shot where Chiron is washing his face of kind of the blood that is still stuck to him. And the next scene is this very long single take of Chiron just heated walking through the school before he shatters a chair over this bully's head. And I feel like in a lesser film that would have been played as a moment of triumph, but here it's played with such a somber note that it's like you are letting the world define who you are just by committing this act of violence, which I'm gonna be one to say that yeah, that motherfucker had it coming, but nobody really wins in that situation.
yeah, yeah, and he, and then sometimes that's what you kind of have to do there because you see throughout, he's being chased, he's being bullied all the way from little kid all the way up into his teen years, and he finally just I think acted out on it, and then you see that was the last scene of him as a teenager, and then cutting to when he turns into an adult, and you see how he is now.
Yeah,
And
it's almost like that one act of violence is when Chiron dies, and it's when Black takes over, the older version of him.
yeah. And you see, because when they meet up again as adults, Kevin and Black, you see that, he just looks like this completely different looking guy, you know what I mean? And completely not, recognizable to him as the kid that he knew before. And then Chill, he is in the chat here is a good point here. He says the adult scene was short and to the point. And he also says when he was washing his face, it felt like it was a show to shed a new light. Like he was, I guess, shedding his old self, like washing away his old self, and then going into more of his thug persona. And then talking to Chill about this movie, talking about how this is kind of a hood type movie here that you would kind of have here in the case of with this movie here, and then it's a beautiful scene at the end where you see it's like one of the final scenes of the movie where you have Black who's talking to Kevin here. I'm gonna play in right here.
You're the only man that's ever touched me. You're the only one. I haven't really touched anyone since.
And what's kind of amazing about that scene, Trante Rose, you have him when he's talking about that, Kevin was his last, kind of sexual experience there, and he hasn't had anything like that since, since that moment on the beach.
Yeah, and it's going so much into Rhodes's performance, because throughout the entire third chapter where he is black, he is this, tough, huge, buff, harder than nails drug dealer. He's trapping, and I feel like when he drops that line, it's almost like Clark Kent taking off, putting on the glass. It's like Clark Kent putting on the glasses, where it's like his shoulders drop. It feels like it's the first time this character has exhaled in such a long time. It's a beautifully done scene.
Yeah. And exploring masculinity, and specifically in this case black masculinity, and how that is, because with black people, and they've done research and kind of studies about this. Like, you have kind of a short window to be considered a child, you know what I mean? And as you kind of get into more preteen, young adult, teen kind of phases, when you're like get up to 12 to 15, that's more, you get more kind of seen as an adult in people's minds, as opposed to other kind of races, groups of people. And that happens with black men, and then it happens also with black women as well, especially the more dark skinned you are. You know what I mean? The more you kind of get, seen as an adult as you kind of get older. So, you kind of have this very short window to have an innocence kind of phase, and to be seen as a child, and to kind of make those mistakes and everything like that. And the older you get, the more, seen as dangerous as you become there. So, that's what kind of makes the scene, with him talking to Mahershala Ali when he's a little kid, you can't let the world define you, define who you are. Really amazing. And the dialogue in this is fantastic. And this movie was also nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, I believe, here as well.
I think it won too. It won for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yeah. And you can definitely see why, because definitely the moments in this, are very written very well, and the performances all around the board are fantastic. Like you said, that moment where he's talking to Kevin, very much, finally just dropping this facade that he probably had on for, over a decade, creating this whole persona there.
Over a decade, he adopted this his presentation of masculine only just to survive.
Yeah. It did. So it won for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Adapted Screenplay there. For the film. So it did win there. So I mean, I highly recommend people check this out. I think it's a fantastic movie. I was glad I was able to finally check it out. I can't believe, 6 years ago. This movie came out 6 years ago. I thought it came out way more recently than 7 years ago. I think that surprised me. That I was like, wow, 2016, really, wow. So that was kind of wild to kind of do. So what would be your final thoughts and rating for this?
Shit, my final thoughts. I'm kind of kicking myself that I hadn't seen this movie sooner, because just watching it now, even with as much praise as I heard about this film, as kind of moving and heartfelt it is, I still, in the back of my head when I was queuing it up, it was like, okay, come on, it can't be that great. And I am fucking wrong. This movie is phenomenal. Just its use of lighting, its discussion of what masculinity is, especially watching it in the lens of 2023, where we have so much of these like manosphere alpha male types, where they have this really distorted view of what being a man is, especially just because they watched Fight Club and took the wrong message from it. It's, I think, one of the more important films to watch, especially now, especially in this day and age. And on top of that, these performances, every single person here is so understated. And it's one of these things where I think my friend Jamarco dubbed it. It was like the Barry Jenkins stare. It's where two characters just exchange eye contact, and here it's done as a shot reverse shot, where it's adult Kevin and adult Chiron, or it's black, and we see that sense of realization in their eyes about what these two men mean to each other. And it's such a beautiful moment. And that's really the only adjective I can describe with this movie. It's just beautiful in terms of its storytelling and really exploring a person's life, especially through this lens. I can't give this anything but this is cinema in terms of how it just moved me.
Yeah.
And how heartbreaking it was seeing all of the hardship that Chiron goes through as a young man, and finally seeing him exhale when he doesn't actually say the words, but when he does confess his love to Kevin.
Yeah, I could say you could say one of the issues with the movie is some of the portrayals of like Naomi Harris's character there, in that situation. But you do kind of, it does offset, but you do have Janelle Monáe's character, who is more of a positive female role model in the film there. So it kind of, I think, offsets just a little bit there. Fantastic movie, fantastic performances, fantastic writing. You said the shot really beautifully, lit really beautifully, which is also incredible. And then you don't see a lot of movies that explore a lot of these topics when it comes to, Black masculinity in terms of that, the vulnerability there. Those are topics that don't get discussed a lot, in a feature film. So I think, it's great for Barry Jenkins to explore those things in a movie like that. And after this, he went on to also have success with another movie, If Beale Street Could Talk, which I also haven't seen, but I also hear really great things about as well. And that's an adaptation of the James Baldwin book, If Beale Street Could Talk. So that's also there. I hear it's an amazing film. So great work from him. I'm eager to see what he does next, because, this was fantastic. I think everybody deserved all the praise that they got for this film. So I would also give it a This Is Cinema, and this is based on a semi-autobiographical play, In Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue, by Terrell McCrahy, Alvin McCrahy. So there you go. This Is Cinema, for Moonlight 2 This Is Cinemas.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to need to take a little time before I watch Beale Street because this movie just wrecked me.
Yeah. Chill said that Beale Street is another one. Cried in that too. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
Dude, I cry in most movies.
Every penny was well spent making this movie. I agree. Thank you, Look Dale Podcast. Great review, guys. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna raid somebody. Let's see who's up right here.